Let's talk some offense. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Tennessee lost 9 starters on offense. That's a big time concern. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. I think what you're going to see in the coming weeks is you're going to get positive reports from preseason camp. You'll always do, right? The coaches don't come out and say, man, these guys are absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. Why did I take these guys? You're going to hear some optimism. By the time you get to game week, it's going to be, oh, Joey Aguilar is probably better than Nico. Tennessee's 9 new starters on offense are going to be better than the previous starters on offense. When the bottom line is, we know that's not true. Caleb, you're going to see that optimism build. But listen, I think that 9 starters lost on offense is innately difficult to overcome. And it could mean Tennessee has to win with defense throughout the season or in September. But I think that'll get lost. That's Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank member FDIC, among some Tennessee contingent that want great things to happen. And I know a lot of you do, and that's great. But the media that you listen to, be careful with that, because they can get caught up in the optimistic preseason storm. And Caleb, I don't think you can just dismiss 9 starters. I can't remember Tennessee ever losing 9 starters, including a quarterback. I give you that caveat, including a quarterback. That's a big, big time loss.
It is, and I have gone back as far as I can go, as far as depth charts were tracked. Tennessee has, even if you include sometimes you have like co-starters, whatever like that, Tennessee's never, ever, ever lost 9 starters. Even in the Jeremy Pruitt years and Butch Jones, where they had so much roster turnover during the late 2010s, they always had at least 3 full-time starters returning. Always at least 3. This year, they only have 2. By the way, one of them's hurt, Miles Kitzelman, to start the year.
I'm told he's doing really well. I just want to pass that on. Go ahead.
Oh, I believe that. And, I mean, this is incredible. So the 2 returning starters, by the way, is your tight end and your left tackle, Miles Kitzelman and Lance Harry. Now, you could say 2.5, because Chris Brazzell, to be fair, was a major part of the offense last year. He technically wasn't considered a starter because Squirrel White was the guy in the slot, and then on the outside were Brew McCoy and Dante Thornton. Those were the 3 leading receivers, so Chris Brazzell was 4th. So technically, Chris Brazzell doesn't count as a returning starter. But you lose your top 3 receivers. You lose your running back, who set every record known to man last year. I mean, that's kind of underrated. You kind of lose, if I'm getting this right, you lose 4 offensive linemen, including all 3 of your interior linemen, and you lose your quarterback. The closest I can remember, Dave, and there's been a few, is the 2000 Tennessee team, not the 2000, excuse me, the 2002 Tennessee team, where the injury bug bit them so hard. Remember that? They started the year number 5. They lost Dante Stallworth, Kelly Washington, Travis Stevens on the offensive line. Dante Stallworth, Kelly Washington, Travis Stevens, Will Bartholomew, John Finlayson. So they're starting fullback, running back, tight end, both receivers, all 5 skill players basically. And then they lost multiple offensive linemen. I believe Fred Weary was one of the offensive linemen they lost to the NFL that year. The point being, they lost a ton of key talent. But I still maintain, I think this is, and they lost Reggie Coleman. They lost Fred Weary, Reggie Coleman, were their 2 offensive linemen that they lost. So with that in mind, that might be the closest I can remember. And they had a very disappointing year because the injury bug bit them so hard. So they went 8-5. I don't know anytime, though. This is by far the most. I will say, though,
especially when you include a quarterback, which is like losing 3 starters.
Yeah. When you lose a quarterback, you've lost basically 3. That's true. At least in 2002, they returned their quarterback. I'm going to say, though, and this is going to be crazy, I'm going to counter the bank on it. And it's funny because it's what we just talked about. I say they lost the offseason transfer portal because of what the teams around them did, but overall, they should be happy with their returning talent. This time around, though, my bank on it is they shouldn't be concerned. They should actually be encouraged by the roster turnover on offense.
Okay, interesting. Now, you said it was the 2002 team with the massive amount of turnover, right?
Yes.
They had a couple of teams to warm up with, if you remember, Wyoming and MTSU. And you would have thought that would have benefited them. They trounced both of those teams pretty handily, although MTSU was just 26-3. But then you get to Florida and you lose 30-13. You go back and beat Rutgers 35-14. You look back and that offense was not at its best the first month of the season. Now they ended up scoring 38 points in 6 overtimes against Arkansas, but that's overtime. Do you expect Tennessee to struggle at times in September because they had so much turnover on offense early? And remember this too, coaches will tell you this. On offense, all 11 people have to do everything right. On defense, one guy has to do something right. I should have mentioned Squirrel. Thank you, Dylan, for the shout out there. There was no excuse to lose Squirrel. I think he was a very versatile player. I think that's the head scratcher, Caleb, is that the two players they lost, they're coming off a playoff berth. One's a locked in starting quarterback, one's a locked in slot receiver that, quite frankly, you could build packages around the same way they did Princeton Fant, not comparing the athletes, but he's a versatile athlete. I think that's the head scratcher is you got two guys you probably really wanted to keep on the roster.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. But I think, look, I'm going to be honest. I think Squirrel was asking for a little bit more money, and they have a slot guy in Braylon Staley that they like, so they weren't willing to pay. And also, they were going to give Boo Carter some looks on that. So I think Squirrel actually left over playing time. And who's the other guy you mentioned that was a head scratcher?
Nico.
Oh yeah, Nico. We know that. We know what happened there.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this with Squirrel too. I've seen this happen with a lot of players, and I wondered if this would happen with Squirrel. He got a lot of pub early because he had a cute nickname, right?
Yep.
And he made some plays as a freshman. A lot of times guys don't respond well to that.
That's true. That's true. That's a very good point.
And he also has a little one. I understand him wanting to get as much money as possible. Yeah, I remember his freshman year. I was like, man, I hope the bug doesn't bite him, the PR bug where he starts to think he's better than he was. I mean, there were t-shirts with squirrels on them, for goodness sake, as a freshman. I mean, he's an 18-year-old.
I agree. Sometimes though, when you lose guys, better guys stepped in. And I gotta point this out. One of the teams that is close to this team in terms of lost talent is, so let's just start with Squirrel. Let's talk about the receivers in general. Dave, I mean, all due respect, not just Squirrel, all due respect to Squirrel, all due respect to Brew, all due respect to Dante Thornton. Who are you going to miss in that receiving core if you're a Tennessee fan from last year? Maybe Dante?
You don't think Squirrel?
No. I think Braylon Staley can do everything Squirrel would do last year because Squirrel was hurt last year. He played last year with a separated shoulder.
Well, I know. But
so would you take Braylon Staley or Squirrel White with a separated shoulder?
Well, I think Squirrel's a better player than Braylon Staley. I also think he was a part of Tennessee's long-term plans. I think it's troublesome that you lose a guy that you place so much emphasis on early. They obviously liked him early. They can't come out and say, not that they would, but they can't come out and say, we didn't care about Squirrel. He can go ahead and vamoose.
No, but they basically said he's not worth the money that we got to pay him. It's like in the NFL, you make decisions like that. I think they were fine letting him walk. And okay, let's just go through the receiving core altogether. Mike Matthews, what you project from Mike Matthews or what you saw from Brew McCoy last year? You're at Vegas. Who are you putting money on being more productive?
I'll go Mike Matthews. But
you will go Mike Matthews.
Yeah, but headed into the season, I would have gone Brew.
Yes, I'm just going based off their production last year, what they did last year. Mike Matthews or Brew McCoy, you're taking Mike Matthews. Braylon Staley or what you saw from Squirrel White last year?
Well, the other question was fair. I don't think that's a fair question.
Why is that not a fair question?
Because I'd take a healthy Squirrel over Braylon. That's me.
But he wasn't healthy. We're asking, will they be upgraded this year? And without Squirrel and a separated shoulder, I don't think that's a concern. I think they'll be better this year.
All right. Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Let's get an update on the poll question. Member FDIC, life made better.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, we got a recruiting question I want to get to first. Update our poll question if you don't mind, sir.
Did Tennessee win the transfer portal despite the Nico Iamaleava loss? Yes, fourth fewest lost in the SEC is 55%. No, Nico plus fewest pickups is 45%.
Okay. Question on recruiting as we go to the message board, and we will address you when you post on there. We greatly appreciate that. Posting so fast, I'm having trouble keeping up. Right,
Well,
where is it? All right, go ahead. Yes.
yeah. Jake Retzlaff. That's the question, the recruiting question.
Question from General Ursus. Dave, just curious, what are yours and Caleb's thoughts on Jake Retzlaff? He has talent and power forward experience. Should Heupel consider going
And
after?
for those who don't know, Jake Retzlaff is the BYU quarterback who I believe has been kicked out because he violated the honor code because wasn't it something about like he was accused of rape. The rape charge was dismissed, but apparently it was consensual sex, but it's BYU, a Mormon school. Premarital sex is banned at that school.
Yeah,
uh,
I don't know. I guess I would.
I think they're all in on Joey Aguilar at this point.
Yeah, well, I don't know that they're all in on Joey Aguilar yet, nor should they be. I think they're all in on the quarterbacks they have. I think
Right.
they at least, even those that doubt Jake Berklinger, I believe think he's got a good 25-30% chance of winning the job. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I could say that. Now let me get back to like the other offensive players and why I think they'll be upgraded real quick, Dave, because I don't think it's a concern. Again, I think I just went across the board with you. I think they're going to be better across the board at receiver than they were last year. Can you even debate that with me? Than they were last year.
In retrospect, no. If you ask me to give my honest preseason opinion, I would say I thought they were going to be better going into last year than I would have thought this group would have been.
Okay.
That makes
So
sense?
yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Now, let's keep going. All right, running back. I can't sit there and say Peyton Lewis will be better than Dylan Sampson. Okay, fine. I'll take the L there. They're returning Miles Kitselman. They're returning Lance Hurd. Assuming they're both healthy, both should be better than they were last year, just as returning starters, right?
Yes.
So Hurd, Kitselman. So
Lance could be dominant good.
Yes. So I just named 5 players on offense, 5 of the 11 starters on offense, projected starters, that will be better than last year's position. Now, here's where things get a little spicy, shall we say. Quarterback. Joey Aguilar this year, or what you saw from Nico Iamaleava last year?
I would the way Nico came on towards the end of the season, I would take Nico.
I'm taking Joey Aguilar this year. Now, Joey Aguilar. Wait. Let me make this clear. I would rather have Nico this year if I'm Tennessee. I would rather have Nico. But compared to what we saw from Nico last year, I would take Joey Aguilar, what I project we'll see from him this year. The only area, by the way, that's a concern, I don't think there's any debate that the interior of the offensive line will be worse this year. But I think the tackles could be better. Lance Hurd, I just brought up. Dave, don't you think David Sanders Jr. could be better at right tackle than John Campbell was last year? I think he could. I mean, I think he's one of those rare guys you step in.
I mean, I'm not going to go as a freshman. I don't put much stock in freshman offensive linemen. Just
okay. Well, I will, and I'm going to say that I think Tennessee could actually have a lot of talent there. The best comparison I can bring up to you is, believe it or not, is the 98 team. Dave, the 98 team lost a ton of starters on offense, as we know, Peyton Manning most notably, but Marcus Nash, Andy McCullough, Trey Teague. What did we find out in 98? We found out that outside of Peyton, for the most part, the backups stepping in were better than the starters. That they just, they actually upgraded it. I mean, they significantly upgraded at receiver in 98. I'm sorry, but Peerless Price was leaps and bounds better than Marcus Nash or Joey Kent was.
How they overcame Andy McCullough. Justin
Jermaine
says
Copeland was better.
Yes.
Andy McCullough got drafted.
Yes. Justin says, why is everyone assuming Aguilar is starting and basing Tennessee season off his performance? Do we really believe Heupel will start Joey over recruited 4- and 5-star if he's not? I'm kind of with you in the back of my mind, but I feel like I'm in the minority, Caleb. But among media contingent, don't you think I'm kind of all alone saying I think Merklinger could still win the job?
Yes, but Heupel doesn't want Merklinger to win the job. There's some politicking going on here, guys. If Merklinger wins the job, Heupel's stuck with Merklinger as his starter for probably the next 3 years, at least the next 2. Heupel doesn't want Merklinger in 2026 because he thinks McIntyre will be better and he thinks Faison Brandon will be better when Faison Brandon arrives. So he doesn't want Merklinger starting because then Merklinger will come back for 2026 and he'll have to open up the competition, or he won't be able to open up the competition. What he really wants is for McIntyre to surpass Merklinger, and then he nudges Merklinger into the portal. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. From Sam, I don't know that these numbers are correct, but I'm going to give you credit for them. 1,242 snaps started by Pendleton and Mo last year at the guard position, 0 sacks given up, and Mo didn't commit 1 penalty. Sam goes on to say the interior is going to be just as good or better. I'm sorry. Without Cooper Mays, I'm not going to say that it's going to be better.
I'm not either. And Sam, you can't look with interior of the offensive line. You can't look at the individual production of what they do, because when we talk chemistry, which we were talking about, Dave, is in Josh Heupel's offense. Let's be honest, chemistry is most important among the interior of the offensive line. They have to play together, like they've played together for years, right? They have to know what each other's doing.